Hello and welcome to the July 19th, 2026 episode of Nick's News. I am your host, Nick, brought to you by Some Budget Studios. That's right, we're paying for this project of ours. We're live every Sunday, and I thank you all so much for tuning in or catching the replay on the Nick's News YouTube channel. This is a program dedicated to bringing good news to counter all the bad news that we are bombarded with on a daily basis, with the hope of bringing a bit of joy back to the world. Several of our articles are pulled from sites like Industry Tap, Live Science, Positive.news, and GoodGoodGood.co, but we appreciate everything sent in by you, the Nick's Newsies. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for being with us. I look a little sunburned. I was out in the sun a bit this weekend, but I should be good to go on this episode. So, where do we start? Our news brew, of course. So I've got a best friend whose name matches up with tonight's news brew. Werk Force Brewing Company continues to put in the hours, this time with Wyatt. Now, what is Wyatt? Well, just like my friend Wyatt, this brew is stronk and sturdy and sits at a pretty heavy 13% ABV, so it is high octane. Did we mention it's a barley wine? That's right, I am doing battle with a barley wine tonight. It will definitely live up to its namesake, I'm sure. Hey, Nico. So we've got a barley wine, which means we need to put in the work with our limited edition harpoon snifter. I really do need to get like another snifter so I'm not using this guy all the time, because this glass just is out constantly. And I think another snifter might be nice to have. So let's get this guy open. It's got a lot of fancy stuff on it. And it is a bottle, so we need the Balisong bottle opener. It is also a barrel-aged, a rye barrel-aged barley wine, so there's going to be some really good rye notes in this one. Let's get into the theatrics of a 5-minute pour. Oh, that is a beautiful barley wine. Get every last drop out of that bottle. Come on, there we go. Ooh. Oh. That came in waves. Beautiful dark barley wine. Let that reflect in my ring light a bit. Wow. All right. So, shout outs. SB Mow It Forward's mission is to lend a hand where it's needed most. They help individuals tackle essential tasks that they can't manage on their own due to limited resources or physical challenges. Recently, Spencer cleaned up the yard of a disabled woman and her kids, then brought her an electric wheelchair and installed a ramp. We have included the links to the socials down below in the description of our video, so check out SB Mow It Forward and Spencer with his channel, SB Mowing. Honestly, so much great work from SB Mow It Forward and Spencer. So, to Spencer and his team at SB Mow It Forward, cheers. That is a big beer. Whoa. Producer Donna says it's pretty, not as dark as the stouts that we drink. But that is bold, and that is complex, and that is every bit the 13% that it claims to be. I will be battling this barley wine tonight. Holy crap. Mmm. Ooh. So a couple of episodes ago, we got involved with the app Follow, which allows you to follow different animals that have tracking collars or tracking units on them around the world. Right now, they're partnered up with Shark Week, which is pretty neat. So you can track some sharks. But we were tracking a leatherback sea turtle named Seance. Well, it turns out the tracker seems to have fallen off of Seance, so we're not going to be tracking Seance anymore. Follow immediately set us up with a new leatherback sea turtle whose name is Jennifer Slopez. Now, Jennifer Slopez is currently chilling off the coast of Louisiana, and we are going to keep you apprised of her movements so long as her tracker decides to stay on. So, best of luck to Seance as she cruises the oceans without a tracker, and hello, Jennifer Slopez. Cheers. Ooh, wow. That is a. I'm going to feel that in my chest. Holy crap, that's a good beer. All right, news quote. Anything is possible when you have the right people there to support you. Simple and elegant, that quote comes from Misty Copeland, who was born in 1982, who is an American ballet dancer and author, and was the first African American woman to be promoted to principal dancer in ABT's 75-year history. And I really love that quote because we surround ourselves with so many people throughout our lives. And it's a big mix. And we try to shoot for the people that we can support and support us. And most of the time, we're right on. Sometimes we fall short. That's not a bad thing. It's a learning experience and it's growth. And I just really like that as you continue to grow, you continue to surround yourselves with the right people, with the right support. And I hope that everybody gets to that point where they have that support. I know I do. I got to hang out with a ton of them this weekend and had an absolutely amazing weekend. And it is something else when you are amongst groups that you support and support you in the same way. So anything is possible when you have the right people there to support you. From Misty Copeland. Cheers. Bug update. The bugs really don't seem to mind when I'm missing. Like I said, I was gone all weekend. Everyone is healthy and happy as far as I can see. I've got to feed them this week, so they'll be even happier. Little John, it does look like he started to build his burrow. He's done a little bit of digging, but he's still out and about, so hopefully he's not going to become the closet shut in that Sue is. Otherwise, everything else is great, and the bugs are all good. Hey, Becky. Okay, with all that out of the way, we can get into our good news. And our good news is broken up into four categories, and those categories are science and technology, health and medicine, flora and fauna, aka plants and animals, and wholesome notes, the really nice ones that we like to end on. So, we're going to be starting off in science and technology, but before we get into that, I would like to kindly ask if you can, please like or comment on the video. Every bit of interaction helps to continue to get Nick's news out there. We have continued to see growth on all of our platforms, and I can't thank you all enough for it, but it's because of that interaction that starts to put Nick's news out there. So likes and comments are fantastic. Thank you very much to everybody that chats. If you don't want to chat, that's perfectly fine, but if you could, just like the video, and it goes a very long way for Nick's news. So thank you again very much. Hey, Dirty Rogue. All right. Let's get into science and technology. Category 1. We've got one article here and we called it Fantastic Facts About Fog. I love alliteration, so expect a lot of that from me. I will copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to check this out. All of the links to all of the articles that we present are also in the description if you want to check those out. And we highly recommend that you do because these are the sites that write these articles. They do a great job of it. So give them some love as well and some some interaction. It's alive. Surprising discovery changes what we know about fog. This was published on May 26th of 2026 to SciTech Daily by the Arizona State University. Every breath you take may contain microscopic hitchhikers floating through the atmosphere. Scientists have known for years that bacteria drift through clouds and air currents, but new research suggests some of those microbes are not just surviving they're not just surviving in fog, they're thriving in it. Researchers at Arizona State University discovered that fog droplets can act like tiny floating habitats where bacteria. Sorry, that barley wine started to fight me. Researchers at Arizona State University discovered that fog droplets can act like tiny floating habitats where bacteria grow, multiply, and even remove harmful pollutants from the air. The findings, published in MBio, challenged the long held view of fog as chemically passive moisture suspended near the ground. Instead, fog may function more like a temporary ecosystem, with active biological processes happening inside billions of microscopic water droplets. For cloud researcher Tai Tuong Tuong Cao, the discovery began with a simple but unusual question: could fog actually support life? While completing her PhD at Arizona State University, Cao teamed up with microbiologists, chemists, and atmospheric scientists to investigate what happens inside fog-covered fields, or what happens inside fog at the microscopic level. Her work took her into fog-covered fields in Pennsylvania before sunrise, where she collected samples and later examined them in the lab. What she found surprised the research team. Certain bacteria inside fog droplets were not dormant passengers carried by the wind. They were actively growing. Fog forms when water vapor condenses into tiny liquid droplets that are suspended in cool air. Each droplet is microscopic, but together they create a unique environment that can briefly resemble a miniature aquatic ecosystem. Scientists have long detected bacteria in the atmosphere, including in rain clouds and dust plumes that travel across continents. Some microbes can even survive exposure to ultraviolet radiation, freezing temperatures, and severe dehydration while airborne. What remained unclear was whether they could remain biologically active inside fog itself. That's very limited knowledge about what kinds of bacteria are present in fogs, which are like clouds at the ground level, says Cao, lead author of the study. The researchers focused on two major questions: which bacteria exist inside fog, and whether those microbes actually grow there. If they are growing, then the droplets are a habitat. That's a mindset change, says Farron Garcia Pitchell, a co-author of the study and the director of the ASU Biodesign Center for Fundamental and Applied Microbiomics. The team discovered that bacteria appear in fewer than 1% of fog droplets. Yet, because fog contains an enormous number of droplets, the total microbial population becomes surprisingly large. When you take all those droplets together, the concentration of bacteria is the same as in the ocean, says Garcia Pitchell, also a Regents professor in ASU's School of Life Sciences. According to the researchers, a thimble-sized amount of fog water may contain around 10 million bacterial cells. One group of microbes drew particular attention: methylobacteria. The scientists found that these bacteria became more abundant during fog events compared to dry air conditions. That matters because methylobacteria consume simple carbon compounds, including formaldehyde, a toxic pollutant linked to smog formation and respiratory health risks. Formaldehyde enters the atmosphere from atmosphere, there's a new dictionary word, atmosphere. Behold, the atmosphere. Formaldehyde enters the atmosphere from vehicle emissions, industrial processes, wildfire smoke, and certain household products. In urban environments, it contributes to the complex chemistry that produces ground-level ozone pollution. The study suggests fog droplets may temporarily become tiny reaction chambers where bacteria help remove some of these pollutants from the air. We observed them under the microscope to see that yes, the bacteria are getting bigger and they're dividing. So there is growth, says Cal. We also found they're using the formaldehyde as food to support their growth. The bacteria processed formaldehyde so efficiently that researchers initially suspected additional chemical reactions were involved. Instead, the microbes appeared to be breaking down the pollutant both as a food source and as a defense mechanism. At high concentrations, formaldehyde becomes toxic even to the bacteria themselves. By converting the chemical into carbon dioxide, the microbes effectively reduced harmful buildup inside the droplets. Tracking airborne bacteria is difficult because wind constantly shifts the atmosphere. To study how microbial populations changed over time, the researchers needed fog that formed in stable air conditions. They focused on radiation fog, which develops when the ground cools overnight and chills the air directly above it. Water vapor then condenses into fog close to the surface, especially in humid valleys with calm weather. Unlike fast moving storm systems, radiation fog can remain relatively stable for hours, making it easier to observe microbial changes before, during, and after formation. The work highlights how little scientists still know about the biological side of our atmosphere. Most atmospheric models focus heavily on chemistry and physics, while living microorganisms are often treated as passive particles. But microbes may be doing far more than scientists realize. The findings could affect several areas of research, including pollution studies, climate science, and even drinking water collection. In some dry regions around the world, specialized mesh systems harvest fog water as a freshwater source. Fog is often viewed as naturally clean, but the study suggests fog droplets can carry active microbial communities and should likely be treated before consumption. The research also raises broader questions about the atmosphere itself. If bacteria remain active inside fog and clouds, they may influence chemical reactions that shape air quality and possibly even weather patterns. It may be important to consider that besides driving chemical reactions, bacteria also grow inside these droplets. It can change the story rather than just a catalyst. They have other activity there. It can change the way we model everything so far, Cow says. Scientists are only beginning to investigate these atmospheric ecosystems. It's relatively new that people are starting to look at biological activities in clouds, so there's still a lot which we don't understand. Says Pierre Herx, co-author of the study and professor in the School of Molecular Sciences. At nighttime, for example, there isn't much atmospheric chemistry going on. Chemistry is largely driven by the sun and by light. But if the bacteria are still doing their thing, even during the nighttime, they can be important. Many mysteries remain unanswered, so researchers still do not know how microbial communities differ between coastal fog, mountain fog, urban smog, and cloud systems high up in the atmosphere. Scientists also want to understand whether these airborne microbes influence rainfall, pollution cycles, or human health in ways that have gone unnoticed. The sky's the limit. No pun intended, Garcia Pitchell says. You can look up all of this research in Growth and Formaldehyde Degradation of Photoheterotrophic Methylobacterium within Radiation Fogs by Tai Thuong Thuong Cao, Pierre Herx, Derek Straub, Soumyadev Sarkar, and Farron Garcia Pitchell. It was published May 11th of 2026 in the journal MBio, and there is a link in that article to that journal. So, to everybody involved, discovering that fog is its own ecosystem. Cheers. Charlie, welcome. Also, please, if you could, let Eric know that I am doing battle with his nemesis, Barleywine. And so far I am winning, but we will see how the rest of the night goes. All right, that is going to get us out of category 1. We are going to move on to category 2, health and medicine. And we've got 2 articles in here tonight. This first one, breakthroughs are not age restricted, is really awesome. I will copy and paste this into the chat if you all want to check this one out at your leisure. Teens medical research breaking down barriers and garnering national attention. This was published on June 10th of 2026 to CTV News by Karis Mapp. A high school student from Ontario is breaking medial. I think that's meant to be medical. Yeah. A high school student from Ontario is breaking medical barriers. Gunur Kaur is a grade 11 student at Cameron Heights College Institute in Kitchener, Ontario. She recently received a top prize at the Canada-wide science fair for her project titled Eliminating Demographic Bias in Pulse Oximetry and Remote PPG from First Principles. And this is pretty wild. Her research delved into how blood oxygen sensors respond to patients with darker skin tones. She was inspired by her father's hospitalization. She said she watched as staff struggled to regularly check his vital signs due in part to overwhelming workloads. On the same ward he was in, a patient fell into hospital-induced delirium, Kaur explained. That experience led her to develop a prototype to detect early signs of the neuropsychiatric syndrome. Within that prototype was non-contact based monitoring of heart rate. Basically, you can use a regular camera to actually detect heart rate without needing to put sensors on patients, she said. But when she tested her prototype on darker skin tones, it failed. It piqued her curiosity about how other established health techniques and technologies reacted to melanin. She developed a new concept for pulse oximeters, devices that monitor blood oxygen levels. Her work led her to the work of Dr. Martin Tobin, who began studying the phenomenon back in the 1990s. What essentially was shown was that in darker skin, the oxygen saturation level is overestimated, Kaur said. This is a very large problem because you can't get patients the treatment they need because you actually think the patients are doing better than they are. For years, experts thought the bias came from a small sample size, but Kaur realized that wasn't the case. It's the actual foundational math and physics that build up the models we've been using, she said. So, she developed a new algorithm, which is being nationally recognized. Kaur's work with both hands-free heart rate detection and pulse oximetry won her the top prize at the 2026 Canada-wide Science Fair, hosted by Youth Science Canada. Other people had looked at the bias. These are professionals who had looked at it for almost 30 years trying to figure it out and couldn't, said Rennie Barlow, the executive director of Youth Science Canada. She got to the root cause of it and identified a solution using algorithms that ultimately will be able to correct the devices that hospitals and people use around the world. Kaur beat out roughly 400 other students for the top innovation prize, and industry professionals are already taking note of her research. A large pulse oximetry company actually saw my project board and they got in contact with me. So I'm working with them to continue to get more data and test my algorithms out on their larger data sets, she said. Her heart rate detection technology was also noticed by Kinetic Labs, which specializes in creating sports technology. I'm trying to do both detection of oxygen saturation and heart rate all through non-contact methods, and that technology is being licensed by Kinetic Labs, Kaur explained. After winning the National Science Fair, she qualified for the European Union contest for young scientists and will be heading to Germany in September to share her work. Damn, that is really awesome. To Gernot Kaur, who has who has taken a 30-year-old problem that medical science has been struggling with, built out an algorithm, and is now working with people across the world to solve this problem, all before completing the 12th grade. Like, she's grade 11. Cheers. That is crazy. All right, this next one in health and medicine is go touch some grass. Seriously, go touch some grass. I will copy and paste this into the chat. Less scrolling, more play. UK to ban social media for kids. This was published on June 15th of 2026 to positive.news by Gavin Haynes. Children will be given back their childhoods, said the UK government on Monday, as it announced a social media ban for under 16s, a landmark policy backed by 90% of parents, according to a recent public consultation. Amid growing concern that childhood is being hijacked by algorithms and that social media is exposing children to harmful content, the UK government said it was marking a line in the sand and setting a new normal for future generations. The ban, due to come into force next spring, will include platforms like Snapchat, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and X, but excludes messaging services such as WhatsApp and Signal. It comes after a report by the Academy of Medical Royal Colleges, which warned that children were being continuously exposed to hateful, addictive, and grossly distressing content online. The Academy said concern over social media and smartphone use now ranked alongside smoking and not wearing seatbelts as a unifying issue for the medical profession. The UK government's announcement was welcomed by the Smartphone Free Childhood movement, which was co-founded by former Positive News editor Daisy Greenwell and her husband Joe Ryrie. For years, parents have been fighting a losing battle against some of the most powerful companies in the world as smartphones and social media have become an even bigger part of childhood. Today feels like a turning point, said Ryrie. This social media ban won't solve every problem overnight, but it is a major step forward because millions of children will now get a few more years to grow up before entering online environments that were never designed with their well-being in mind. This moment belongs to the hundreds of thousands of parents who refused to stay quiet over the past 2 years. Together, they've proved that ordinary people really can shape public policy, and that childhood doesn't have to be defined by the commercial interests of a few technology companies in Silicon Valley. The UK joins Australia, which became the first country to ban under 16s from social media last December. While many parents have been supportive of the ban, some tech-savvy teens have found ways to get around it. And not everyone is convinced by such bans. Chris Sherwood of the UK's National Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children said they punish teenagers for tech platforms' failures. And I can see that a bit. And critics argue that age bans can push children into less regulated online spaces, while doing too little to address the addictive design of the platforms themselves. Nevertheless, momentum is building, with Denmark and New Zealand among the countries considering similar legislation. Man, we've got a ton of dictionary entries tonight. Legislation? What did I even say there? Meanwhile, in France, lawmakers have approved a bill that would ban under 15s from social media. The emotions of our children and teenagers are not for sale to be manipulated, either by American platforms or Chinese algorithms, said French President Emmanuel Macron. Legislation? I said legislation. What the hell is legislation? The UK ban comes amid a wider reckoning for social media platforms, which faced what some call a big tobacco moment in March, when a Los Angeles jury found Meta and YouTube liable for designing addictive products that harmed a young user. An article that we actually covered on Nick's News, which was fantastic. UK Technology Secretary Liz Kendall said tech companies have had countless opportunities to keep children safe, yet they have failed to act. That is why we are taking power away from the tech giants and putting it back in parents' hands. To everybody involved in passing legislation, both the families affected and striving for this, and the legislation for passing this, a ban on social media for under 16s to hopefully continue to protect our more vulnerable people, our children, from the terrors of online effectively until they're reach an age where they're ready to fight it. Cheers. We're gonna have a shirt that's just gonna be all of the Nictionary listings. It's gonna be terrible. All right, that's gonna get us out of health and medicine. We're gonna move on to category 3, flora and fauna, aka plants and animals. We've got 2 articles in this section, and the first one is an All the Buzz article. So I will copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to check this out. Beekeepers working to revolutionize Canadian honey industry with locally sourced queens. This was published on June 22nd of 2026 to CBC News by Amir Saeed. It might come as no surprise that Canada's cold climate can pose a problem for beekeepers, with a 2025 report from the Canadian Association of Professional Apiculturalists finding that over 41% of Alberta honeybees colonies fail over winter. It's an issue Calgary area company Beekeeping Innovations Limited, or LTD, has devised an innovative solution for. They call it the Bee Cube, an apiary with a fully climate-controlled environment capable of housing multiple honeybee colonies and designed in Okotoks. The goal is to get the bees through the winter in a comfortable environment, said Herman van Riekem, the company's founder and CEO. But beyond helping bees survive the winter, the Bee Cube presents an opportunity the group says could shake up Canada's beekeeping industry. The real goal that we figured out is how to make queens, how to reproduce queens in a very safe, in a very economical way, and this is an ideal system for that, Van Riekem said. Our major use case for this Bee Cube is to produce queens, Van Riekem added. We want to make queens in big numbers so we don't have to import them to Canada. We need our own resilient stock. He says Canadian beekeepers rely heavily on importing foreign queen bees, typically bringing in around 300,000 a year from warmer places like Australia, New Zealand, and the US states of California and Hawaii. If you introduce a queen that has never been here, she's not going to do as well, he said. And beyond the challenge of acclimating to a vastly different environment, imported bees carry the risk of bringing in dangerous pests like varroa mites, which have devastated honeybee colonies locally and worldwide. He pointed to another pest that could be even more destructive, the Tropolaleps mite, which hasn't established itself in North America but has been found in honeybee colonies in Asia, Europe, and Africa. If that mite gets to North America, it would be devastating, he said. As beekeepers, we have to do our best to not import foreign queens. If we could do away with that and create our own domestic source of queens, we'd be a lot safer, he said. Van Riekum says breeding local queens could keep mite infection rates down and potentially produce bees with a genetic advantage to survive the bitter cold of Canadian winters. Whether in the wild or in an apiary, each hive has one queen bee, which is selected as a larva and fed a special meal called royal jelly. This extra protein is what triggers the developing larva to become a queen bee rather than a regular worker bee. She's the only bee in the hive that can lay eggs, making her a critical component of any beekeeper's colony. There can't be two queens roaming freely around the hive, says Van Riekum. One queen will kill the other one. To create more queens, fellow beekeeper Nazar Pukshin says queen cells from one hive are inserted into a colony without an existing queen. A queenless colony is required because if the colony already has a queen, the bees will not want to build new queen cells. The beekeepers place the frame of grafted larvae inside, and they return the next day to check how many larvae the bees have accepted. The queens emerge as adults after about 2 weeks, and because the first queen to emerge will kill the other queen cells, the beekeepers must carefully monitor the days of emergence and keep the newly emerging queens in individual cages to protect them from killing each other. Queens are then taken to their own hives, where, after about a week, they mate with drone bees, males whose primary purpose is just to mate with a queen, after which they can start laying about 2,000 eggs a day and establishing their own colonies. Van Riekum says a mother queen that has successfully survived a Canadian winter could pass along strong genes to her offspring, including future queens, to carry their hive through the winter. We produced about 800 last year, he said. This year, we'd like to make 5,000. There are over 16,000 beekeepers and 850,000 bee colonies in Canada, according to the federal government. Of those, Alberta is home to nearly 40% of the country's colonies. The province is the largest honey producer in Canada. Canada's 2025 honey harvest was valued at $241 million. Beyond honey, Canadian beekeeping also plays a critical role in providing pollination services to many farmers, contributing billions in agricultural economic impact. 33% of what we eat comes from bees pollinating our crops, Van Riekum said. The canola, the orchards, the blueberries, all the foods that we like to eat, stuff that tastes real good, wouldn't be here without honeybees pollinating them. That is really awesome. To everybody involved at Beekeeping Innovations Ltd, designing the Bee Box, or the Bee Cube, a place where you can safely overwinter bees in Canada and also mass produce queens that may be resistant to Canada's bitter cold. Cheers. Again, I'm a huge fan of alliteration, so this next one we called Future Proofing for Frosty Fauna. And I will copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to check this one out. A climate-ready corridor created for Kyrgyzstan's snow leopards. This was published on June 11th of 2026 to Manga Bay. It doesn't have a credit. Oh, by Nina Rao. Kyrgyzstan has officially designated a massive stretch of its high altitude landscape as a protected corridor for snow leopards and other mountain wildlife. The Ak-Ilbers Ecological Corridor, formalized in 2025, spans nearly 800,000 hectares, or 2 million acres, and was designed with the future climate in mind, Manga Bay's Liz Kimbrough reports. The corridor connects several existing protective areas in the country, as well as pasture land, forest, and other ecosystems across 14 rural municipalities to ensure wildlife, including snow leopards, Panthera uncia, can move freely as climate change shifts their habitats. The project was spearheaded by the Central Asian Mammals and Climate Adaptation Initiative, or CAMCA, led by the UN Environment Program, or UNEP, in collaboration with the Kyrgyz? Kyrgyz? I'm going to call it the Kyrgyz. I'm probably getting that name wrong. I apologize. Uh, in collaboration with the Kyrgyz government, Humboldt University of Berlin, and local conservation groups including Camp Alatu and Ilbir's Foundation. Murat Zumashev, director of Camp Alatu, said that while the Ilbir's corridor carries official protected area status, it functions differently from most. The ecological corridor in Kyrgyzstan is based on a regulatory rather than a restrictive approach. Zumashev and his colleagues, Salamat Zumabeva, producer Donna did not warn me about the names in this one. I apologize to everybody if I am butchering these names. I am so sorry. The ecological corridor in Kyrgyzstan is based on a regulatory rather than a restrictive approach. Zumashev and his colleague Salamat Zumabeva told Manga Bay by email. It builds on existing environmental legislation, but unlike strictly protected areas, it does not involve land withdrawal or the introduction of strict prohibitions. To design the corridor, scientists at Humboldt University applied a combination of expert local knowledge, climate predictions, and technical expertise to build the narratives for the future scenarios. Julieta Decker from Humboldt told Manga Bay by email. Under future climate emission scenarios, more than 60% of suitable habitat for snow leopards and their primary prey, such as Argali sheep, Ulvis ammon, and Asiatic ibex, Capra sibirica, fall within the designated corridor, she said. Snow leopards are a sign of a healthy mountain ecosystem. As top predators, they depend on thriving prey populations, which in turn need a healthy mountain ecosystem. However, with shrinking glaciers, unpredictable rainfall, and deteriorating pastures, herders are moving higher into the mountains, increasing competition between livestock and wild ungulates. This will affect the well-being of snow leopards. Zarebek Kuban... Oh my gosh, what is this name? Zarebek Kubanichbekov, director of the Ilbir's Foundation, told Manga Bay by email. To mitigate these pressures, there is the. I think the beer is getting to me. I definitely think the Barleywine is winning this fight. Let me give this one another go. This will affect the well-being of snow leopards. Zerbek Kubanichbekov, director of the Ilbir's Foundation, told Manga Bay by email. To mitigate these pressures, there are specific management rules within the corridor, such as no grazing zones and seasonal bans like during early spring. Herders must also leave at least 40% of vegetation cover as forage for wild animals. Projects like this are good for hope because you can see changes at the policy level and changes in people's mindsets on the ground. Martin Hoffman, Associate Program Management Officer at UNEP, told Manga Bay in a video call. To reduce financial dependence on large livestock herds, the CAMCA project is training local communities in alternative livelihoods, such as beekeeping, orchard cultivation, and ecotourism. You can read the full story by Liz Kimbrough at a link in the article. But that is really neat. A lot of work being done in Kyrgyzstan to set up a wildlife corridor that spans 2 million acres to help protect snow leopards and their prey. To everybody involved in that project, cheers. Producer Donna says, I'm always telling her, it's fine, I'll get the names. It's fine that the names are crazy. I need to pre-read articles sometimes, folks. That's what it boils down to. All right, that's going to get us out of flora and fauna. We are going to move on to category 4, the wholesome notes. If you haven't already, please, if you could, leave a like on this video. Every bit of interaction helps get us further out into YouTube, wading into the waters of social media, and continuing to grow Nick's News. And I can't thank you all enough for it. And if you want to check out any of these articles again, check out the descriptions in the links in the description of our video. This article has 2 titles attached to it. We've got one wholesome note with 2 article titles. It is a Sometimes It Takes a Village article, but it's also known as Uber Eats Gets Seal of Approval. So I will copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to check this adorable one out. The picture that pops up right away when you open the article will melt your heart. After oyster farmers saved a seal pup in need, they followed up by sending her rescue a cooler full of clams and crabs. It takes a village. This was published on June 4th of 2026 to goodgoodgood.co by Megan Cook. At the end of May, oyster farmers came across a seal pup that desperately needed help in Denman Island, British Columbia. After the team at Baines Sound Oyster Co. called for wildlife support, the Marine Animal Response Society organized a medevac for the pup through Harbor Air. By June 1st, she arrived safely at the Vancouver Aquarium Marine Mammal Rescue Society. The aquarium staff named the seal pup Bane after the oyster farmers who rescued her. According to the Vancouver Aquarium Marine Mammal Rescue Society, Bane is their first female seal pup of 2026. Harbor seals are among the most common marine mammals along coastlines in the United States and Canada. Despite changing ocean temperatures related to climate change, human-related disturbances, and entanglement in fishing gear, harbor seal populations have remained stable, thanks to protections under the Marine Mammal Protection Act. The Vancouver Aquarium Marine Mammal Rescue Society explained that Bane's rescue was only possible because of incredible community support like this. It takes a village, they emphasized. When the aquarium called the Baines Sound Oyster Company to thank them for their rescue, they had a follow-up request. During those conversations, we mentioned another challenge we were facing: finding foods that our newest sea otter patient would actually eat, the aquarium posted to Instagram on June 2nd. Less than 12 hours later, they sent a cooler overflowing with fresh clams and crabs. In the Instagram video, the sea otter in question, named Clamato, can be seen happily chomping down on a whole crab, slapping it on his stomach, and ripping it apart with his paws and teeth. Needless to say, the aquarium wrote, it was a huge hit. In a follow-up post on June 4th, the aquarium provided more detail on the conditions of Bane's care. Bane is what we call a lanugo pup, meaning she is still covered in the thick blonde fur that is typically shed before birth, the aquarium explained. When harbor seal pups are born with their full lanugo coat, it often indicates that they were born prematurely. Premature pups can have difficulty regulating their body temperature and maintaining healthy blood glucose levels, so Bane is being closely monitored by our animal care team as she settles into rehabilitation. They wrapped up their post by saying, "Welcome to the rescue center, Bane. We're rooting for you." Beneath the post, the comments section was filled with well wishes. "Keep fighting, sweet girl. Everyone has your back," wrote one Instagram user. "Does she know how much I love her?" another asked. "Bane, feel better soon," one person cheered. "Grow big and strong." For those looking to support Bane and Clamato, and the many other marine animals under their care, the Vancouver Aquarium Marine Mammal Rescue invited people to visit their website. and there is a link in the article. To Bain's Sound Oyster Company for rescuing an orphaned little seal pup, and to everybody at the Vancouver Aquarium Marine Mammal Rescue Society for taking care of such mammals. Cheers. Oh, and to Baines for doing Uber Eats effectively and sending a cooler of clams and a crab for the other animals at the Vancouver Aquarium rescue group. Cheers. I'm realizing now, given what they named the seal pup, I could have done that entire article doing like a Bane voice, but I would have just obliterated my vocal cords. So, probably a good thing I didn't, right? That was good. Those are great articles. Really good news from around the world and some real fun. So, thank you all again for tuning in or catching the replay on the Nick's News YouTube page. Again, we're live every Sunday, and our next episode will be on July 26th of 2026. We encourage participation, so by all means, if you feel inclined, you can post suggestions for news brews, shout-outs, news quotes, and especially good news articles that we can present on future episodes. If you send us a bunch, try to spread them out across our 4 major categories, which again were science and technology, health and medicine, flora and fauna, aka plants and animals, and wholesome notes, like the seal rescue that we discussed here at the end. You can message us on Facebook or Instagram, or email us at somebudgetstudios@gmail.com. Links are all in the description of this video. Feel free to like, subscribe, or comment on our content across all our major platforms: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. That's right, we're on TikTok, and our TikToks are actually doing really well. It's pretty crazy. So yeah, every little bit of interaction continues to get us out into the algorithms. It continues to spread good news and joy. And it's because of all of you that we continue to spread it. It's crazy. Please no SEO improvement advertisements. We're not interested. If you send me them, I'm just going to ban you instantly from ever sending me messages again. So it's because of all of you that Nick's News continues to grow. And again, I can't thank you all enough. It really is amazing. Ever since we transitioned to the YouTube page, ever since we started branching out into other content platforms, that Nick's News continues to grow and continues to spread good news. And it's all because of you guys. So thanks again. As always, thank you again. I love you all. Have a great night. And I will play us out.